You know, I often find like irony and sarcasm used interchangeably. You know, so irony and sarcasm are mutually exclusive. I mean, the commonality irony and sarcasm share is, irony is the or verbal irony. 'Cause remember, we have situational irony. Situational irony and verbal irony are like a dichotomy. And we know a dichotomy is the partitioning or polarization of a whole into mutually exclusive parts. So irony is the contrast of what's expected or anticipated. And that's primarily if you place that emphasis on situational irony. Situational irony. Contrast, polarity of what's expected or anticipated. Right? Right. Verbal irony is when there's a literal statement, but the contrasting interpretation derived from tone. This is all tonality. To have a deeper understanding of rhetorical devices in literary devices, you might need to study a little phonetics and phonology. You know. Phonology and phonetics is two subfields, a branch of linguistics. Linguistics have all these subfields. You have phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, applied linguistics, sociolinguistics, psycholinguistics, and the philosophical aspect of language. Now, verbal irony and verbal sarcasm are not the same. So verbal irony is when there's a literal statement, but the contrasted interpretation derived from tone. Sarcasm is also a literal statement, but the contrasted interpretation derived from tone. So clearly, irony, verbal irony, and verbal sarcasm have the same definition. But where the polarity derives in verbal irony and verbal sarcasm is they both interpretation derives from contrasting or polarized interpretation. But with verbal irony, the polarity or the contrasted interpretation is innocuous. It's benevolent. It's friendly. The contrasted interpretation of sarcasm is malevolent. It's sinister. It's evil. And this is where irony, verbal irony, and verbal sarcasm is used interchangeably. Because they're both conducive to polarity in interpretation and has to do with the rise and fall in tone, the rise and fall in speech. Phonetics, acoustic phonetics, auditory phonetics, articulatory phonetics. I'm being interrupted, unfortunately. And what is the whole objective of this? To discuss music and phonology. We shall resume.